There were three key items, if you'd permit me to explain. So as a result of the domestic debt exchange, we had a 50% principal haircut on our non-marketable instruments, which was around 64.5 billion. So we took a haircut of 50. But remember, no other institution, the private sector and the banks, did not take a haircut in all of this. It is the Bank of Ghana that has been the shock absorber to the domestic debt exchange to ensure that we return to debt sustainability over the medium term. As I was explaining, we have the marketable instruments, the non-marketable instrument, and COCOBOD's loans to BoG were all put in the perimeter of the debt exchange, and that resulted for the loss. These three items alone accounted for 53.1 billion out of the loss of 60.8. This is close to 90% of the loss. And you cannot say that the domestic debt exchange has not had any impact. It's purely a domestic debt exchange impact on our balance sheet. Yes, of course, there were other things, but those other things were very minor on our balance sheet. Yes, we have a negative equity. We think you shouldn't be worried because I think the issue that arises is whether the bank will continue to be policy solvent. It's an issue of policy solvency. And with policy solvency, the issue is whether we can continue to discharge our mandate of pursuing price stability and financial stability despite the negative equity. And the answer is yes, we can. So we can do that. Policy solvency requires realized revenues to cover costs and build longer-term capital reserves. But I think that is not to say that, yes, we don't need to recover. We will have to recover as we move along. But will we be policy solvent as we move on? I think, yes, we will be policy solvent. But again, we also need to recognize that we are putting in place steps and actions to ensure that we return back to positive levels. So some of the measures that we are putting in place is that we'll be retaining profits to build capital back up. We'll then be optimizing the Bank of Ghana's investment portfolio and operating cost mix to bolster efficiency. And then again, I think you said this at the beginning of your program, we will be making an assessment for the potential need for recapitalization support from the government in the medium term. Just 2 days ago, somewhere, I think last week on the 25th of July, the Bank of England, in a report, said that it was making a claim on government for a potential loss of about 150 billion pounds that has come on its balance sheet as a result of the quantitative easing that they embarked on to try to smoothen out the economic fluctuations that they had in previous years. Many central banks are recording same negative losses. So yes, but these central banks are also operating and they are also delivering on their mandate. So we can. The problem is that it should not be persistent, because the more persistent it gets, the more negative it gets on our balance sheet over a longer period of time, then credibility issues creep in. So there's a plan, there's an agenda to restore capital, but we need to bear in mind that the domestic debt exchange was the main factor that created the problem. Are we going to have the domestic debt exchange again? I don't think so. Had it not been for the domestic exchange, what would the picture have been? I don't think we would have been recording a negative profit.